Hi, Nus Wadeezulh. Today we're going to work on our animal of the week, which we haven't done in quite a while. So in those homework packets that I gave you, you're going to have one of these sheets with the frame on the front and all the information on the back. So first thing you're going to do is make sure that you don't draw your animal upside down. And we are going to be drawing our animal. We're going to be making a portrait picture today. So remember, landscape is when our pages are on their side like this, and portrait is when they're up and down. So today it's going to be up and down. Okay, so before you get started, make sure that you have a pencil and make sure that you have a good eraser, because remember, we're going to be drawing with nice light lines at first, and sometimes we end up erasing those lines. Okay, and if at any point during this video you need me to slow down, just pause the video and then you can catch back up. So today we are going to be doing the Arctic wolf. You have been doing a bunch of work on Arctic animals this week, I hope. Good job. And I had a request before from some of my students to learn how to draw a wolf and to learn about wolves, so that is what we're going to be doing. Also, this is my first video, so if I make mistakes, I'm sorry, I'm learning too. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do for our wolf, remember, we're doing nice light lines. We're going to do a howling wolf. And I'm going, pay attention to how much room I take up, right? So if I draw some little circles like this to start off with my body, that means I'm going to end up with a tiny little wolf. So we want to have a wolf that takes up a fair bit of the page. So the first thing we're going to start off with is some circles. We're going to do one for his chest, nice and light, because we're going to be erasing most of these lines. So I'm going to draw myself a big circle here, and at a bit of an angle, I'm going to draw a circle here, about the same size. Remember, we do nice light lines, so if we don't like what we drew, we can erase it. Okay, so notice a couple things about my circles. They're pretty close to each other, right? Also, they're not one right on top of the other, they're at a bit of an angle. So what this is going to look like is we're going to join these circles, again, nice light lines. We're going to join these circles to make our wolf body. And this way we're able to kind of get his shoulders and his nice little rump here. And that's good. Our next circle that we're going to do is we're going to give him a head. Now, the head circle is going to be almost right above his shoulders, and it's going to be a little bit smaller as well. Let me try one, and then I might end up having to fix it depending on how I did. Nope, I think I'm happy with that. Sometimes it's hard doing these big drawings, I get out of proportion. Okay, so he doesn't look like much of a fox right now, or much of a wolf right now. Of course, he doesn't look like a fox. So let's give him a bit of a face. I'm going to add his nose. So I'm not going to put his nose facing straight up like that, because that looks a little bit awkward. It's going to be at an angle. So I'm going to follow my line up here and do a nice snout coming up this way, and then I'm just going to curve it down like that. I might even make it a bit more of an angle coming down. And then I'm going to, remember, he's howling, so he's going to have a nice open mouth, and I'm going to draw my bottom jaw. Remember, doing nice light lines will mean that you can make some mistakes, but you can still erase it. I know, I'm kind of cheating with my dry erase marker. So there we go. And the wolves we have around here are gray wolves usually, and they actually have slightly longer snouts and longer legs and longer ears. Arctic wolves live in the Arctic, and it's very, very cold there. So a lot of their limbs and their noses and their ears, everything's a lot shorter and just more compact. And a lot of that just has to do with heat conservation or staying warm. So if this guy looks almost like a bear because of his short snout, that's one of the reasons is I am doing that on purpose. It's because we're making him an Arctic wolf, not one of the gray wolves that we have here. Okay, let's give him a little nose at the end of his snout here, and we can actually erase our first line. So we're gonna erase this circle. There we go, and already it's starting to look a little bit more wolfish. Okay, now at the back of our circle, let's give him some ears. Wolves have amazing sense of smell, and they also have amazing hearing, especially these Arctic wolves, because in the Arctic, it's dark for up to 5 months of the year. So when it's that dark, they need to be able to still hunt and find prey. So they can't be relying as much on eyesight. So they are able to see well in the dark, but they also rely a lot on their hearing and their sense of smell. Okay, so let's give them some ears. I really miss you guys. It's way easier to do this when you're here in the classroom and I can just talk to you. But anyways, let's give ears. So they're going to be coming down, pointing at the same angle. See his nose? Imagine there's a line coming down. We're basically going to use that same line, and we're going to have his ears kind of coming back like that. Since his head's pointing back, his ears are going to look a little funny here. And now I'm going to erase this line here and just draw, I'm going to erase that line and draw his ear coming into his head a little bit more. See how that line comes right into my circle? And then we'll give him, he's got nice fluffy ears, right? Because he doesn't want to get frostbite, so they have lots of fur on their ears. So we're just going to draw on the inside here, make him look nice, like he's got nice fluffy ears. And of course he has two, so we'll draw the one in the background as well. Okay, let's connect our head to our body. Coming down from the chin, we're just going to follow this line. And remember, when you're drawing your lines, you might want to just right from the start, give it a bit of a scruffy look, because of course wolves are hairy, especially these Arctic ones that have to have very thick fur to keep them warm in those super cold winters. So we're going to have our neck coming down. We're going to have fur, following the belly, fur. Okay, good. I guess we need to connect it on the top too. So same thing here. I'm just going to give him a bit of fur coming down on his head and just continue that line all the way down to his shoulders. Perfect. And once I've done that, then I can erase this line here. And I can erase this line here. And I guess I can actually erase this line as well. Hopefully you can still kind of see it, just because we got to remember that we're going to put our front legs in here, which is what we will do right now. So you can imagine, maybe we shouldn't have erased our circle. You might still be able to see faint lines of your circle. It was about right here. So I'm going to come right here, right kind of about halfway through the circle, and then in the front of his body. And I'm going to draw a leg, and his legs are going to come straight down. He's going to be sitting like that. And of course, most legs, think about our legs, think about horse legs, and basically all legs out there. They start off thicker and they get thinner as they go down towards the ankle. So same with him. I'm going to draw my shoulder. My shoulder is going to be in line basically with the center of that circle there. And it's going to come down, and it gets thinner as we go down. And when we get down to the ground, we're going to draw his paws. And remember, wolves, of course, they're in the dog family, and they are not like cats in the sense that they have claws, but they can't retract their claws. So cats have retractable claws that they can pull in and put out. Wolves always have their claws out. So we will draw that. I just made his foot look a little silly. I'll put it actually flat on the ground this time. Good, and we'll give him some little toenails sticking out like that. And we can get rid of these lines now. Oop. because that foot isn't blocking out his stomach here. And there we go. Now for this next foot, you have some options. You could put his foot just flat down like that. I think I'm going to have him kind of curling the one foot up. So his knee would be about right there. There we go. Am I happy with how that looks? I think I kind of made this leg a little fat. I'm sorry, I don't want to, you're welcome to, you probably didn't make the same mistake, but I just wasn't too happy with that first leg. But that's part of doing art, right? Is you make mistakes sometimes, then you can go back and fix them. Okay. And his toenails and his toes. Okay, I think I'm mostly happy with that. Looks like I might have to make his back end a little bit bigger, but that's okay. Okay, let's see. So the next thing we're going to do is work on that back end of his. We are going to draw him a nice hip bone. So starting about right here, we're actually going to follow this circle. And we're going to come down to the ground. And then we're going to draw a foot. So I know this kind of got a little bit messy here. Basically, I followed my circle. And then when I got down to the bottom of his belly, I'm going to give him a long foot. I want it to be flat at the same level as that. So here we go, we'll go like that. Yep, okay, good. So right now that kind of looks a little bit confusing, but remember we started about halfway here, so now I'm just going to erase the rest of this circle like that, and now I can make his bum a little bit bigger, make it kind of come out to here. So you can still see where the circle was here, and then we just gave him, it almost looks like a rabbit foot, doesn't it? Because when they sit down on their haunches, it does look a little bit rabbitish almost. And this will look a lot better once we actually give him some toes. Let's give him some toes and some little toenails. And here's his belly. Now wolves, one of the cool things about them is that when they catch food, sometimes they don't get to catch food for a couple of weeks, so they're able to store a whole lot of food in their stomachs. So this guy is looking a little chubby right now. That's because maybe he caught a musk ox or a caribou, and he could have eaten up to 20 pounds of food that's sitting in his belly. So if you don't want your wolf to look quite as chubby, maybe he hasn't found food in a couple of weeks, you could also fix his belly here to look a little bit thinner. There we go. I'm going to give him another leg. Of course, his other hind leg would be kind of in the background here. So I'm going to just slide it in right here. And sometimes you have to play around with perspective a little. Give him some toenails over there. Good. Okay, and now for the tail. So you have a couple options with the tail. I don't know if I like his bum. I'm not used to sitting down in front of this board. I'm used to standing and moving around. And since I can't back up, I have to keep on realizing that I'm not quite happy with this picture yet. There we go, that looks better. So with his tail, you can either put it in front of his body. So you might choose to give him a tail that kind of comes in front like that. Actually, you know what? I like that quite a lot. So I might actually leave mine. So if I do that, I'm going to, then of course that tail is covering up his leg. So I'm just going to erase that line. Remember, that's why it's so important that we do nice light lines at first, and then we can go through afterwards and put in more defined lines. There we go. And I'm just going to make it look nice and hairy. Most animals have tails for a couple of reasons. A lot of the times, though, it has to do with balance. So having a big, strong tail. It doesn't seem like it would be that important, but it does help these animals have a lot of balance when they're jumping over rocks and climbing. So really important. Also, things like elephants, remember how we talked about they have the hair at the end of their tails, and that's for swatting away flies. Obviously, elephants don't really need their tails for balance. It's a pretty dinky tail for a big elephant, but still come in very handy. You might also want to put your tail pointing up. I just decided to put mine like that. But that's one of the cool things about these is you guys choose to do all sorts of creative things with your animals, and I love to see it. Okay, so let's add a few more details here. Oh, eyes, that might help. Let's see. So our eyes are going to be up here, and if you can imagine howling at the moon, you're not going to be howling with your eyes wide open. That would be weird. So they have their eyes shut when they howl. So let's draw some eyes. Just kind of like that. His eyes are nice and shut. And the other thing we're going to want to add is some teeth. These guys have extremely sharp teeth. One of the reasons is that they actually need to be able to crack open bone. So these are make sure you have the teeth. These are very important. We also want to add just a couple spots here for whiskers. And there we go. I think that's mostly what we need for our fox, or for our wolf. We're also, I might just add some little spots here now, just to show the big thick fur that he has. So take a minute now to add some details. Make sure your wolf has whiskers. Make sure he has you've drawn some kind of scruffy lines there to show that he has fur. Make sure he has teeth. Make sure he has toenails. And once you're happy with that, you can add a bit of a background in. Now, these are Arctic wolves, so they're not going to be living in forests with great big tall pine trees. Because the thing about the Arctic is as you go farther north, there's just not enough sun up there for trees to grow really, really big. So I'm not sure if you've noticed that, but when you look at pictures as you go farther and farther north, you see less and less plant life. Even in the tundra, when all of the snow melts for the couple of months of summer, you don't ever really see huge trees. Sometimes you might see some like kind of scraggly bushes and some little scruffs of grass, which I'm going to give him a couple little grass scruffs. Yeah, and some little kind of bushes here that are able to grow, but everything that grows there has to be able to grow and reproduce right in that short span when there's summer and there's daylight. And of course, when there's daylight way up north, it's actually daylight 24/7. So yeah, very, very interesting place. So make yourself a bit of a habitat here. I'm going to make mine kind of a tundra area in the summer. If you want, you can Google Arctic images. Maybe you'll want to go for, let's see, maybe I'll make a shoreline here. And maybe I'll do some icebergs somewhere out here. Oh, and I guess if he's howling, we should probably, let's see, if he's howling, we should maybe make it nighttime too. Let's see, I'm just gonna make some mountains in the background. You can hear the helicopter outside, I don't know if you can. Yeah, so we'll put some icebergs out here. And then I'm going to make it nighttime. So if you're coloring this, you can make it nighttime as well. See, I'll put a moon up here. Maybe some stars. That's not much of a star. not a good time for the helicopter to come. Okay, let me take a step back and just make sure I haven't made any huge mistakes here with our wolf. Nope, I'm happy with that. Just one more little prickly bush here. If you're feeling really adventurous, you could put him with a meal, which might consist of a half-eaten Arctic hare. So it's up to you. Also, if you're feeling super creative, you could go online and check out how to draw puppies, or go find a picture of a puppy and try to do a little wolf pup. Most of the time, baby animals, they look fairly similar to the adults, but babies have bigger heads and shorter legs, so they just kind of end up looking like a rollier, polier version of the adults, don't they? So yeah, you're welcome to go do that. And if you want to pause the video and keep on working on your background and get that all finished, you're welcome to. And if not, I'm going to flip it around and we're going to talk about the back side of the page, which you also need to get done before you send this back to me. So, that was our Arctic wolf. Which leads us to the back. Okay, I'm not really sure what happened to that last video, but for some reason it stopped filming right as soon as I flipped the board over and started to tell you how to fill out the back. So for this week, I'll figure it out for next week, I guess. But for this week, I have it filled in for you now, but I just want to go over it with you so when you're filling it in, it all makes sense. So for this week's animal, it was the Arctic wolf. And so you can put that in there. It is a kind of, and our mammals, and our options were mammal, bird, insect, reptile, or it could have been a fish or an amphibian. But of course, a wolf is an animal that has fur and it gives its babies milk, and it is a mammal. So you can put mammal in that spot. The carrier bird is yes, but I'm not sure how to pronounce it, so you may want to ask someone in your family. But I've talked to Mabel, and the word for wolf is yes. So you can put that in. For the habitat, so habitat meaning where does this animal live? It lives in the Arctic. And I think we could also add here that often they live in the Arctic tundra. So that means that the snow melts in the couple months of summertime, and there's lots of tiny, tiny little plants on the ground. Like we mentioned though, we never end up seeing great big trees, even trees as big as what we have here in Takla, because there's not enough sunlight there to nourish great big plants like that. For food, what do wolves eat? Well, these wolves up here, they mostly eat musk oxen, which are great big hairy things that look kind of like buffalo, but just with a ton of hair to keep themselves warm. And if you want to see something really cute, I would definitely look up pictures of baby musk oxen, because they're amazing. The families though, themselves, the big musk oxen herds, they actually will form a great big circle with all of the males on the very outside, and then all of the mothers, the females, on the inside, and then right in the center of the circle, they'll keep the babies hidden, because the babies, of course, are the most vulnerable and likely to be picked off by wolves. So you definitely need to be hunting in a pack if you're a wolf, because there's no way one single wolf could take on an entire herd of muskox. Sometimes there's not musk oxen around, so sometimes they'll also eat caribou or hares. I'm actually going to send you a link on YouTube of a documentary where the wolves are chasing down a hare, and it's fascinating to watch. So much effort goes into just catching one little tiny animal. And sometimes when they're really hungry, they'll actually even eat Arctic foxes. Okay, and down here we have our list of adaptations. So remember, adaptations are things that animals have that help them survive in their environments. So in this case, Arctic foxes have a bunch of adaptations that allow them to live in the Arctic. So some of the examples that I thought of were they have white fur for camouflage, right? Because if you're not white and you live in the Arctic, if you're an animal that's brown or black or blue or what have you, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. So most of the animals, if you think about Arctic animals, are white. There's polar bears, there's the Arctic hares, the Arctic foxes, all of them have white fur. And Arctic wolves are the same. Also, they have stomachs that can hold up to 20 pounds of food. Remember, I was mentioning that before, but I think that's such a crazy adaptation. 20 pounds is about 4 huge jugs of milk, if you think about how much that weighs. That's how much a wolf is able to eat in one sitting. But that's important because sometimes they can't find food for a couple of weeks. So if they have stomachs that can hold a huge amount of food, they're going to survive longer. Let's see. I would like you to come up with 3 adaptations, but I was going to let you come up with your third. I just thought I'd give you a couple ideas in case you can think of anything. You could talk about their sharp teeth, you could talk about their tails, you could talk about their good eyesight, and their even better hearing or smelling. So there's lots of other things you could also talk about. Also the different adaptations they have to keep warm. I mentioned a couple of them in my video. And finally, you get to the section for other, and that's for you to fill in. So just like we did in class, I want you to go online. You can look up articles from National Geographic. You can look up YouTube videos, but I want you to find 2 more cool facts about wolves. Okay, so that part is all up to you, and I cannot wait to see what you come up with. So make sure that you put your name at the very top of this page, because I need to be able to know whose is whose when I get them all in. And I'm so excited to see them, and I really, really miss you guys. Thanks for being patient. I know I made a bunch of mistakes today while I was doing this, but we're all learning. Yeah, I can't wait until we can do this in person. It's so much more fun with you there. But for now, I miss you, and I hope you're all doing really, really well. Bye.